Sister, even if you hate me, you don't have to take it out on me like this.
Now, this is what I actually did. The waiter quickly brought over a towel. Gu Shisho wiped the wine stains off his face. His eyes, as deep and cold as an abyss, were indecipherable. He stared at me. In the end, he said nothing. He left the gala with Song Shishi. That night, my parents came to pick me up. But on the way home, they were struck by a car driven by Song Shishi. They died instantly. Gu Shisho kept vowing that
he would make the culprit face the consequences.
But the moment he learned it was Song Shishi,
he betrayed me and flipped his story. I will testify for Song Jiji. The person who hit my parents-in-law was my wife, Yu Yin.
Because of that, I was imprisoned for 6 years. Just like that, I was sent away. I kept begging for help inside, but I was repeatedly silenced by the people he hired. I endured endless humiliation, living worse than a rat in the gutter. When he came to pick me up, he casually put his arm around my shoulder.
Gigi is young, he said. She couldn't waste her youth in prison. It was only 6 years. It passed in the blink of an eye. As long as you don't cause trouble for Gigi, I will still treat you well. Just like before.
That should be enough, right? Hearing this, my already dead heart felt like it was being ground to dust again. When I was first thrown into prison, I desperately sought help from everyone. All I got in return was him hiring people inside to torment and suppress me further. The ringleader spat on me, warning me to stop trying to get help. If you still haven't learned to behave as Mr. Gu ordered, he wouldn't mind to keep you locked away in here forever. I curled up alone in a dark corner where no one noticed. My body ached, but my heart bled even more. I stayed by Gu Shisho's side for 4 years, but it was nothing compared to the 2 months Song Shishi appeared. With just one word of fear from her, he threw me behind bars for 6 years. She said she didn't want him to visit me, so he truly abandoned me there for 6 years without a word. Countless times, I wanted to end it all, but the hatred festering in my chest told me that I can't die just yet. If I'm gone, I won't be able to get justice for my parents, much less seek justice for myself. At that thought, I walked up to Song Shishi and slapped her hard across the face. Gu Shisho grabbed my wrist violently and interrogated me.
Yuin, have you lost your mind?
Weren't you here to apologize? Only her death will count as an apology to my parents. Enraged, he backhanded me across the face. I was knocked to the ground, my face burned with pain, but I still looked up at him defiantly.
It seems 6 years of punishment was far from enough. You actually dare to lay a hand on Gigi. Don't forget, just as I could get you out on bail 2 months early,
I can also send you right back in, right before my eyes. He took Song Shishi into his arms and turned to leave. He didn't spare me a single backward glance. As I lay slumped on the ground, I suddenly realized my right eye was failing as well. I prepared the divorce settlement overnight. Following my memories, I found Gu Shisho's villa. I pushed the door open and entered. A birthday party was in full swing inside. At the sight of me, all eyes were fixed on me,
whispering, "Hey, if I'm not mistaken, isn't this Gu Shisho's murderous wife?
How did she end up so wretched? She's even on crutches. And she looks blind, too.
Isn't it obvious? It's karma." Back then, Yu Yin drove the car and killed her own parents, then schemed to frame Song Jiji. But who would have thought? The great lawyer Ji Yu was completely impartial. He exposed her during the final hearing. A piece of scum like her, who killed her own parents, would never be treated well, even in prison. Looking like this now, she must have been well attended by the other inmates. She deserves it.
Sister, why did you show up without saying a word? Shijo is just hosting a birthday party for me at home. You're not angry, are you?
The smugness in her eyes is unmistakable, but I stare at her $1,000,000 haute couture gown, lost in thought. While Gu Shisho was buying designer brands for Song Shishi, I was in prison, struggling just to survive. In the biting cold of winter, I had to hand wash my cellmate's clothes, just to earn a thin blanket. 6 years have passed. Song Shishi's beauty remains unchanged, while my leg is crippled, my eyes are blind, and my parents are dead. All of this is thanks to Shisho. I take out the divorce papers, place them on the table, and say coldly, "Gu Shisho, sign the divorce papers. Let's stop this entanglement." Gu Shisho stares at me in surprise and scoffs.
Yu Yin, are you still living 6 years in the past? Open your eyes and take a good look at yourself. A blind cripple. A murderer who killed her own parents. Who else would want you but me?
I let out a self-deprecating smile. Back then, when he was held hostage by the defendant's family, I was the only one brave enough to go and save him. But I was stabbed through the womb with a knife.
And I could never have children again. Why did you risk your life to save me?
Besides my parents, you were my only family. Of course, family members know exactly where the knife hurts the most. My scars didn't give him a reason to protect me. Instead, they became his sharpest weapon to attack me, whether I'm the murderer or not. Don't you know that better than anyone? Gu Shisho, I retorted sharply. Doubtful whispers broke out among the crowd. Gu Shisho's face darkened. and he was quick to correct me.
The judge has already convicted you. A crime is a crime. Are you still trying to deny it?
Song Shishi panicked, running to my side and grabbing my hands. Her eyes turned red with feigned grievance.
Sister, I know that framing me back then was meant to drive me to death, but Shijo just heard it was my birthday today, and he felt sorry for me. It's not easy for a girl to make it in the big city alone. That's why he wanted to throw me a birthday party. If this makes you feel uncomfortable, I'll just leave. Please don't fight with Shijo because of me.
As soon as she finished speaking, it was like a heavy stone hitting the water, causing a huge stir among the guests. I ignored their ridicule, and instead stared wide-eyed at the bracelet on Song Shishi's wrist. That was the gift from my 18th birthday. The silver bracelet my dad worked for months to buy me. It even had my initials engraved on it. I searched everywhere for it before I went to prison, but couldn't find it. I never expected it to turn up on Song Shishi's hand. I grabbed Song Shishi's wrist. Where did you get this bracelet? It's mine. Give it back to me. She dropped to her knees right in front of me, sobbing piteously.
Sister, please let me go, okay? I'll let you have anything else you want, but this bracelet, it's a birthday gift from Shijo. It means everything to me.
I shoved her away, and turned to Gu Shisho in disbelief. Gu Shisho. Do you have any idea? That was the last keepsake my father left me. How could you, without my consent, give it to Song Shishi? Gu Shisho gave me a conflicted look, but in the next second, Shishi took the chance to scream and fall backward. Her head slammed hard against the edge of the coffee table. Blood gushed out. Gu Shisho panicked instantly. He rushed over to help Shishi up. He kicked my broken leg and roared.
It's just a damn bracelet. Is it worth bullying Gigi like a maniac over it?
With that, he grabbed the divorce agreement I had left on the table, and signed it quickly.
You want a divorce, don't you? Fine, I'll give it to you. I hope you don't come crawling back like a dog, begging me for a reconciliation.
I slumped to the floor, paralyzed by pain, staring at him with bloodshot eyes. Gu Shisho threw the signed divorce papers right in my face. How ironic. During my 6 years in prison, it wasn't like I hadn't sent him divorce papers before, but without fail, he never signed them. The divorce I couldn't get for 6 long years. All it took was a little scratch on Shishi. I gritted my teeth and pulled myself up with my cane. Gu Shisho threw the bracelet at my feet.
Take your trash and get out. From now on, never show your face to Gigi and me again.
I said nothing. I silently picked up the bracelet and held it close. I turned around to leave.
But someone grabbed me. Since you're no longer Mrs. Gu, we don't have to worry about the consequences anymore. You scumbag who murdered your own parents. We've wanted to give you a piece of our minds for a long time. You think you can just leave?
I didn't do it.
How dare you talk back, you wench?
Someone shoved me hard from behind.
Before you went to prison, I should have disciplined you on your parents' behalf. People like you need to be taught a lesson for being so unrepentant.
I caught a glimpse of Gu Shisho. He held Song Shishi protectively in his arms, watching me get berated with a cold, expressionless face.
Mr. Gu, you teach Yu Yin a lesson, right? Not at all. If anything happens, I'll cover for you.
But he clearly knew I had just been released, covered in injuries. I couldn't possibly fight back against so many people. I looked at him, tears welling up in my eyes. The last shred of hope I had for him was completely extinguished. I closed my eyes, ready to join my parents in death, but then he spoke again.
Yu Yin, I'll give you one last chance. As long as you admit your mistake, I can make them stop. I've done nothing wrong.
Everyone was pushing and shoving me. I felt like a leaf being trampled into the dirt, but I still looked up at him defiantly. The only thing I ever did wrong in my life was falling in love with you. Gu Shisho, for treating me like this, you will regret it. Gu Shisho's last bit of patience finally snapped. His next words were,
Yu Yin, you've got guts.
If you have the guts, don't you ever come begging for my mercy. He took Song Shishi into his arms, turned around, and left the villa, rushing to the hospital. Before leaving, Song Shishi picked up the bracelet I had dropped on the floor, and tossed it out the window with a smirk. The bracelet was crushed by countless scars until it was mangled beyond recognition. I tried to get up, but I was held back. They spoke even more cruelly. I drifted in and out of consciousness. When I finally woke up for the last time, I found the villa completely empty. The floor was a total mess. My head was throbbing, and my whole body felt like it was falling apart. My knees were so weak that I couldn't stand up at all. I lay prostrate on the ground, dragging my body forward inch by inch. Even if it killed me, I didn't want to stay in this house where Gu Shisho and Song Shishi had been. But Song Shishi unexpectedly returned. She nudged my fingers with the tip of her shoe. I looked up at her with pure resentment. With Gu Shisho gone, she dropped her act.
How does it feel to be lectured like that, Yu Yin? She lit a cotton swab in front of me and sneered. Do you know what my biggest regret is right now? It's that I didn't have Gu Shisho get rid of you while you were in prison. It's been 6 years, and your existence is still a threat to me. But that's okay. What I couldn't finish in prison, I can just do right now.
What are you trying to do? She threw the burning cotton swab onto the floor-to-ceiling curtains.
Stop right there. Now that things have come to this, I don't mind telling you the truth. Regarding that disaster 6 years ago, I hadn't been drinking at all. But I must say, your parents were quite resilient. When I got out of the car, they actually asked me to give you a message. What did my parents say?
Song Jishi whispered maliciously into my ear. After hearing her words, my face turned deathly pale. I froze where I stood in utter disbelief.
This is impossible, believe it or not. You're about to leave this world anyway.
Song Jishi dusted off her hands in disgust, leaving me amidst the wreckage of the room.
Goodbye, Miss Yuin. Have a safe journey to the afterlife.
I was engulfed in a sea of flames. All around me were torn curtains and toppled furniture. The air was thick with the smell of choking smoke. Just as I was resigning myself to my fate, thinking that my life was over, Yuin, a voice pulled me back from the brink of death. I looked up. I saw Fu Chen in a brown trench coat, tall and imposing. He rushed toward me in a panic. Sparks fell onto him, but he didn't even notice. Seeing my broken and battered body, his eyes brimmed with tears. He suppressed his heartache and picked me up. His voice was cold, yet filled with tenderness.
Yin Yin, I'm here. Stay with me.
At that moment, I knew Fu Chen had arrived. With the last of my strength, I opened my eyes. I met Fu Chen's incredibly beautiful eyes.
Fu Chen, what took you so long? It hurts so much.
It really hurts. Somehow, his tears began to fall. They landed in the palm of my hand.
Feeling scalding hot. It's my fault. I'm sorry I'm late. Let me get you out of here first. You're badly hurt, don't move.
His voice cracked with a sob. I could no longer bear the agonizing pain. I collapsed into his arms. Meanwhile, Gu Shisho was sitting alone, staring blankly out of the office's floor-to-ceiling window. The cigarette butt had almost burned down to his fingertips, but he didn't seem to notice. The assistant knocked and entered the office. Seeing the cigarette ash scattered all over the floor, he hesitated to speak.
Mr. Ji Yu, everything on Miss Song's side has been handled. She has a mild concussion.
She just needs to stay in the hospital for a few days for observation. Gu Shisho didn't respond. The boss only gave a faint grunt in acknowledgement. The assistant hesitated for a moment before speaking again.
Mr. Ji Yu, a fire has broken out at the villa. A fire? What happened? Where's Yu Yin? Is the fire that bad? The firefighters are still trying to put it out. It seems Mizu was still inside at the time.
Gu Shisho's heart fell, as if it were being clutched tightly by an invisible hand, suffocating him instantly. He practically sprinted out of the office. He floored the accelerator to the limit, running countless red lights to reach the villa. The once magnificent and exquisite villa was now being completely engulfed by raging flames. Thick smoke billowed upward. The piercing sirens of the fire trucks blended with the roar of the high-pressure water hoses. Gu Shisho flung the car door open and tried to charge inside.
Sir, the fire inside is too intense. You can't go in. Let me go. My wife is in there.
Gu Shisho's eyes were bloodshot, his voice hoarse, as he struggled to break free.
The firefighter was momentarily stunned. Is someone still inside? When we received the alarm, we were told everyone had already been evacuated.
Gu Shisho felt as if he'd been struck by lightning. He let out a desperate roar toward the sea of fire. All that responded to him was the crackling sound of the building burning. The crowd watching from outside whispered among themselves. Someone recognized him. Isn't that the great lawyer Gu? I heard his murderer ex-wife is still in there. She didn't make it out.
Serves her right. Even God couldn't stand her anymore.
The world is better off without a woman like her.
These words were like poisoned needles, piercing into Gu Shisho's ears one by one. For the first time, he felt toward the self-righteous justice around him, an overwhelming sense of disgust and irritation. After an intense battle against the flames, the firefighters finally brought the fire under control, and entered the building for search and rescue. Gu Shisho stared fixedly at the exit, his heart racing as if it were about to explode. As the minutes ticked by, every second felt like an eternity. Finally, the rescue team emerged with a stretcher. The stretcher was covered with a white cloth. Gu Shisho's breath caught in his throat, and his blood seemed to freeze. He walked over, step by stiff step, reaching out with trembling hands to lift the cloth. Sir, please accept our condolences. The firefighter's voice was filled with pity. A corner of the white cloth was lifted, but what lay beneath was not the charred, curled body he expected. Instead, it was a charred, unrecognizable, and bloated plastic mannequin. Gu Shisho was stunned. The firefighters were also stunned. After a closer look, the firefighter said awkwardly, "Sorry, sir."
No human remains were found inside.
The scene was empty. Gu Shisho stood there, frozen in place. Over the next month, he utilized every bit of the connections and resources at his disposal. He nearly turned the whole city upside down. Yet he couldn't find a single trace of me, no sign of me alive, and no body to be found. Meanwhile, his law firm, began to face frequent troubles. Several major clients of many years suddenly terminated their contracts without warning, turning instead to his competitors. His most capable lawyers were either hit by scandals or poached one after another. Past cases he handled were being reopened and hyped up by his rivals, questioning his professional ethics. The company's stock was targeted by unknown forces. In a malicious short attack, nearly one-third of the market value evaporated. He was overwhelmed, besieged from all sides. I know, this is all Fu Chen's doing. In Haicheng, only he is capable of such a feat, but compared to what I've suffered, it's nowhere near enough. I can't quite describe my feelings. He drove back to the villa. He pushed aside the ash and debris with his foot. A piece of silver, crushed almost flat, caught his eye. It's that bracelet. He knelt down and picked it up carefully. The silver bracelet had long lost its luster, but my initials on the inside were still faintly visible. At this moment, his heart felt as though it were pierced sharply by something, a sharp, stinging pain. Her father had worked for months, saving every penny he could, to buy Yu-in her 18th birthday gift. She cherished it like a treasure. She wore it for years, and never once took it off. Yet, after she was imprisoned, despite her countless letters begging him to find the bracelet, he dismissed it as just a cheap piece of junk.
Saying if it's gone, it's gone. So what if Gigi wanted to play with it? Don't you already owe her enough?
But now, as he held this twisted silver piece, it felt searingly hot against his palm. Shizhou. Shishi's delicate voice came from behind him. Gu Shisho quickly hid the bracelet, clenched in his fist, suppressing all emotion. Turning around with a blank face, Song Shishi, wearing a pure white dress, looking fragile and pitiable, standing not far away.
What are you doing here?
It's so dirty here. Frowning, she walked over, trying to take his arm. Gu Shisho instinctively pulled away. Song Shishi's hand froze in midair. Shisho, have you been overworking lately? You look terrible. I heard about what happened at the firm. Don't worry too much.
Are you absolutely sure that everyone was evacuated before you called the police?
Song Shishi's heart skipped a beat.
Shizhou, are you doubting me? It was so chaotic then. My head was spinning. I was only focused on calling the fire department. I truly thought everyone had made it out. How could I have known that Yuin hated me so much, that she'd rather commit suicide by arson just to get back at us?
As she spoke, tears began to stream down her face. In the past, Gu Shisho would have softened and pulled her into his arms to comfort her. But at this moment, as he looked at her tears, he couldn't stop an image from surfacing in his mind. The last time he saw her, those eyes, streaming with both blood and tears. Eyes full of pure hatred. Is that so? He sneered. But I checked the call logs. It was a long time after the fire started, before the emergency call was even made. Song Shishi's sobbing stopped abruptly. Her face turned pale instantly. Shisho, you're investigating me? I only want to know the truth. Gu Shisho took a step forward, glaring at her intensely. Tell me, how exactly did the fire start? And where exactly is Yu-in? The overwhelming pressure made Song Shishi panic. The truth is that Yu-in set the fire herself in a moment of desperation. She was jealous of how well you treated me. She hates us. As for where she went, how should I know? Maybe she didn't even die. Maybe she ran off with some other man. She was never any good to begin with. Some other man? Song Shishi realized she had overstepped. She quickly tried to backpedal. I was just guessing. Otherwise, she was so badly injured. How could she just vanish into thin air? Shisho, why do you believe a murderer instead of me? Shisho. A sharp, stabbing pain shot through his heart. It hurt so much he could barely breathe. His face turned deathly pale. He stumbled back a step. He gripped the silver shard so hard it nearly cut into his palm. Shisho, what's wrong? Don't scare me. Song Shishi was startled. She rushed forward to support him. Gu Shisho violently shoved her hand away. His gaze was colder and more distant than ever before. His voice was terrifyingly hoarse. From this day forward, without my permission, never come looking for me again. Song Shishi panicked completely. Why? Shisho, is it because of Yu-in? She's already dead. Are you going to leave me for a dead woman? She's not dead. Gu Shisho cut her off firmly. I will find her, no matter what. With that, he didn't give Song Shishi another look. He turned and walked away. 1 month later, a villa in the suburbs. Fu Chen brought in the best medical team in the world. They performed one sophisticated surgery after another on me. The surgical lights went out. Dr. Lin takes off his mask and walks out of the operating room. The leg bone reconstruction surgery was a success. There will be a slight limp in her right leg, but it won't affect her ability to walk normally. The vision in her right eye has recovered to 0.8. The facial scars will require several more reconstructive surgeries. Fu Chen leaning against the wall. When will she be back on her feet? 2 weeks of rehabilitation training. Full recovery in about 2 months. In the ward, Yu-in is lying in bed. Her right leg is in a cast. Her face is wrapped in gauze. Fu Chen pushes the door open and enters. He sits by the bedside. How are you feeling? Yu-in turns her head, looking at him with her only good eye. Fu Chen, help me look into a few things. I'm listening. First, information on all of Gu Shisho's clients, especially his most prominent ones. Second, all of Song Jishi's spending records from the past 6 years, transfer history and social connections. Third, the witnesses who committed perjury for Gu Shisho in court. Track down every single one of them. Fu Chen looks at her without asking why. Give me 3 days. Yu In is a little surprised. You've waited 6 years. I won't make you wait a single day longer. Yu In falls silent for a moment, then says, thank you, don't mention it. Fu Chen stands up. You saved me once when we were children. Now it's my turn to save you. He walks to the door, and glances back at her. In, focus on your recovery. As for the revenge, I'll take care of the arrangements. 3 days later, Fu Chen's company conference room. Fu Chen spread out a thick file of documents in front of Yu In. She was sitting in a wheelchair, her right leg still in a cast, but some of the gauze on her face had been removed. Gu Shisho's law firm has 3 core clients: Hon Yuan Group, Dingxing Real Estate, and Huaxin Technology. These 3 companies contribute over 30 million in annual legal fees to him. Yu In flipped open the file. Her eyes quickly scanned through every page. Zhou Mingyuan of Huaxin Technology. Fu Chen pointed to one of the pages. He's been working on a real estate project recently. His capital chain is extremely strained. He borrowed 200 million in bridge funding from Guam Shisho. Where did Gu Shisho get that much money? Mortgage loans. He pledged both of his houses and his equity in the law firm. Yu In sneered, gambling his entire net worth on a client nearing bankruptcy. It's not a gamble. It's a desperate move he had to make. Fu Chen pulled out another set of documents. Song Jishi has spent at least 50 million of his money in the past 6 years. He pushed a list of expenses toward her. Yu In looked down at the list. Cartier necklace, 880,000 yuan. Hermes Birkin bag, 620,000 yuan. Porsche Cayenne, 1.8 million yuan. Downtown apartment, 20 million yuan. Monthly allowance, 200,000 yuan. The list was densely packed. From the first year to the 6th year, there were entries for every single month. Yu Yin's fingers tightened. Her nails dug deep into her palms. When I was in prison, I had to do others' laundry just to get a single quilt in winter. Her voice was calm, but Fu Chen could hear the freezing cold beneath it. That's enough. She closed the folder. Let's start with Huaxin Technology. What's the plan? Block Zhou Mingyuan's project approvals. Fu Chen looked at her. Are you sure? This will require pulling a lot of strings. I'm sure. Once Zhou Mingyuan's project is stalled, his capital chain will break. He won't be able to pay back Gu Shisho, and Gu Shisho won't be able to repay the bank. Once the bank presses for payment, Gu Shisho's capital chain will also collapse. What about Han Yuan and Dingxing? Spread the word that Gu Shisho is on the verge of bankruptcy. Businessmen fear nothing more than being tied to a sinking ship. Let them choose for themselves. Fu Chen looked at her, the corners of his mouth curving slightly. Those 6 years weren't for nothing. You meet all kinds of people in prison. Yu In said calmly. I had a cellmate. She used to be the CFO of a major corporation. She taught me a lot. Good. Fu Chen stood up. Within 3 days, you will see the results. Scene, Huaxin Technology, Chairman's Office, Day. Zhou Mingyuan slammed the documents onto the desk, knocking over the teacup. Rejected again. This is the 5th time. The secretary stood at the door, looking pale. Mr. Zhou, the Planning Bureau says there's an issue with the EIA report. It needs to be redone. We've done the EIA report 3 times already. Every time they said it was the last time. Now they're demanding a full reapplication. It'll take at least 3 months. Zhou Mingyuan collapsed into his chair. Beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. 3 months. His capital chain won't last more than 2 months. That bank loan is due next month. If the project doesn't get approved, he won't be able to pay it back. The hundreds of millions poured into the project will all go down the drain. He grabbed the phone and dialed Gu Shisho's number. Lawyer Gu, the approval is stuck again. You have to help me find a way out. On the other end of the line, Gu Shisho's voice sounded a bit shaky. I'm pulling some strings. Just wait a bit longer. I can't wait. The bank loan is due next month. If the project isn't approved, I can't pay the money back. You won't be able to get back the 200 million you lent me either. Gu Shisho fell silent for 5 seconds. I'll find a way. He hung up the phone. Zhou Mingyuan stared at his phone, suddenly sensing something was wrong. Gu Shisho's voice sounded very weak, as if he were going through a crisis himself. Gu Shisho hung up the phone, his hands trembling. He sat at his desk. The teacup in front of him had gone cold. He was rarely this anxious, but these past few days, he had been incredibly restless. The assistant knocked and entered. Mr. Gu, Mr. Chen from Han Yuan Group just called. He said they've decided to switch law firms. What? Gu Shisho stood up abruptly. To whom? The Fu Group's legal department. Gu Shisho's face turned pale. Also, regarding Mr. Wang at Dingxing Real Estate, their Hong Kong partners made it clear. If Mr. Wang continues to work with you, they will withdraw their investment. Mr. Wang has just sent a formal termination letter. All 3 clients are gone. The assistant leaves the office. Gu Shisho sits alone in his empty office. He has occupied this office for 10 years, rising from a junior lawyer to Haicheng's top law firm partner. He thought he'd stay here until retirement. His phone lights up with a collection notice from the bank. Dear Mr. Gu Shisho, the mortgage loan on your property is now overdue. Please repay the total principal and interest of 120 million yuan within 3 days. Otherwise, foreclosure proceedings will be initiated. He stares at the screen. His hands begin to tremble. He picks up his phone. He scrolls to Yu Yin's name in his contacts. He hasn't dialed this number in 6 years. He presses the call button. Ringing tone. No answer. He dials again. Still no answer. He slams his phone down on the desk. He buries his face in his hands. Yu Yin sits on the sofa in her suburban villa. Her phone lights up. Gu Shisho. 2 missed calls. She glances at them. She flips the phone over. Face down. Fu Chen approaches with a glass of hot milk. He sets it down in front of her. Not picking up. There's nothing left to say. He's on the verge of collapse. The bank is hounding him. His clients have all vanished. Zhou Mingyuan is also cornering him. It's not enough. Yu Yin takes the milk. He hasn't reached a total dead end yet. He still has 3 properties. And some favors he can still call in. He can hold out for a bit longer. What's the next move? Qian Wanjin. Fu Chen looks at her. A flicker of surprise crosses his eyes. You know of Qian Wanji? I heard the name in prison. The boss of Haiching's largest underground bank. Gu Shisho borrowed money from him. He did. 300 million. At 5% monthly interest. When did he borrow it? Last month. To cover Zhou Mingyuan's deficit. He borrowed 300 million from Qian Wanjin. He used his law firm's equity and his last house as collateral. Yu Yin set down her glass of milk. That debt. Buy it out. Qian Wanjin was a stout man in his 50s. He sat on a leather sofa in his Haiching underground bank office, rolling 2 walnuts in his hand. The office was filled with rosewood furniture, with a massive landscape painting hanging on the wall. It looked like the office of a legitimate businessman. Mr. Fu, what brings you here today? Qian Wanjin stood up with a beaming smile. Fu Chen sat opposite him, with Yu Yin by his side. Qian Wanjin's gaze lingered on the scar on Yu Yin's face for a second, before quickly looking away. He had seen enough of the world to know what to look at and what to ignore. Mr. Qian, how much does Gu Shisho owe you? Qian Wanjin's hand faltered, and he stopped rolling the walnuts. You are remarkably well informed, Mr. Fu. 300 million, at 5% monthly interest. Can he even pay it back? Qian Wanjin smiled. His law firm is on the brink of collapse. How could he pay? 2 of his 3 houses have been seized by the bank. The last one is only worth about 20 million. He spread his hands. As for the rest, I'm quite worried about it. I'll settle it for him, Fu Chen said. Qian Wanjin narrowed his eyes, and started rolling the walnuts again. And the catch? Gu Shisho's debt. Transfer all of it to me. From this day forward, he owes that money to me now. Qian Wanjin froze for a moment. Then he burst out laughing. Mr. Fu, you're really out to destroy him. Do you have a score to settle with him? No. Then why drop 300 million to buy his debt? At least you'd get a splash if you threw that much cash in the river. That's none of your business. Qian Wanjin stopped laughing. He gave Fu Chen a serious look, then glanced at Yu Yin. Fine. 300 million. Not a penny less. The funds will clear tomorrow. The debt will be fully assigned. Fu Chen stood up and shook his hand. Deal. Yu Yin remained silent the entire time. After they left Qian Wanjin's office, Fu Chen asked her, what's the next step? I'm going to tell him myself. Gu Shisho walked out of the conference room. His eyes were bloodshot. His suit was rumpled, and his tie was askew. He hadn't slept for 3 days. One collection call after another came from the bank. Zhou Mingyuan had even cornered him at his office door, cursing at him for half an hour. Qian Wanjin's men also started calling to threaten him, their tone growing increasingly aggressive. Just as he reached the elevator, the doors opened. Yu Yin walked out. She had a slight limp in her right leg, but her back was held perfectly straight. The scars on her face were clearly visible under the lights, and her right eye was cold and devoid of emotion. Wearing a long black coat, she looked like a sharp, unsheathed blade. Gu Shisho froze on the spot, as if he were immobilized. Yu Yin, you're still alive. Sorry to disappoint you. No, I didn't mean that, he said, taking a step forward. His gaze fell upon the scars on her face and her slight limp. His voice suddenly changed. Your legs, your eyes, they were broken by the people you hired in prison. Gouged out. Don't you remember? Gu Shisho's face twitched. I've been looking for you for a long time. His voice was hoarse. These past 3 months, I've been looking for you. What for? To send me to prison again? No, Yu Yin, listen to me. Let me tell you a few things. Yu Yin interrupted him. She took a document out of her bag. She threw it in front of him. First, Huaxin Technology will go bankrupt next week. The 200 million you lent to Zhou Mingyuan, you won't get a single penny back. Gu Shisho's expression changed. Second, Hunyuan Group and Dingxing Real Estate have changed law firms. Your law firm, from now on, won't have a single client left. Third, she took out another document. The 300 million you owe to Qian Wanjin, Fu Chen has already paid it back for you. From now on, the money you owe is to Fu Chen. Gu Shisho's face turned as white as a sheet. 4. All assets under your name, including your house, car, and law firm equity, are already on the bank's asset freezing list. Within 3 days, if you can't pay back the loan, the bank will seize everything. So, Yu-in look at him. Great lawyer Gu, you have absolutely nothing now. Gu Shizhou's hands were trembling. Yu-in, why are you doing this? Yu-in let out a laugh. There was no warmth in that laughter. Gu Shizhou, you're asking me why I'm doing this? She took a step forward. 6 years ago, Song Shishi was the one who ran over my parents. She told me herself. She hadn't been drinking at all that night. She did it on purpose. She was trying to hit me, but my parents happened to pick me up that night, and they died in my place. You knew very well that she did it, yet you committed perjury in court. You testified that I was the one who hit them. I was sentenced to 6 years. During those 6 years, I was beaten in the eyes in prison, beaten in the legs, beaten in the face. I survived in there for 6 years. I lived worse than a dog, while you were out having romantic dates with Song Shishi. You bought her a necklace worth 880,000 yuan, a bag worth 620,000 yuan, a 20 million yuan apartment. You gave her 200,000 yuan a month in allowance. You took the bracelet my father left me, and gave it to her like it was a piece of trash. I wrote you 87 letters from prison. Not a single one was answered. I begged you to help me get that bracelet back. You said it was just a worthless bracelet, that it didn't matter if it was lost. The day I was released from prison, what did you say to me? You said Shishi is young, that her youth shouldn't be wasted in prison. But you said I was different. You said it was only 6 years, that it would pass in the blink of an eye. Gu Shizhou. And now you're asking me why I'm doing this? Gu Shizhou opened his mouth, but no words would come out. His eyes turned red. Yu-in, listen carefully. Yu-in said, emphasizing every single word. This is just the beginning. Everything you are losing is exactly what you deserve. And as for what you owe me, little by little, I will take it all back. She turned and walked into the elevator. Yu-in, Gu Shizhou rushed toward her. He grips the elevator door. I know I was wrong. Please, let me make it up to you. The elevator doors crush his hand. He recoils in pain. The doors close. Yu-in's face disappears as the doors shut. Gu Shizhou slumps to the floor in the corridor, trembling uncontrollably. Gu Shizhou sits in a cramped room in an urban village, no more than 20 square meters. The paint is peeling off the walls. The bed sheets are stained yellow. The streetlights flicker outside the window. A few boxes of instant noodles sit on the table. His phone rings incessantly with calls from the bank, Qian Wanjin's thugs, and Zhou Mingyuan. He doesn't answer any of them. He stares at the number on the screen. After a long hesitation, he dials it. This time, someone picks up. Yu-in. His voice is as raspy as sandpaper. It's me. The other end remains silent for 3 seconds. What do you want? I want to see you. I have something to tell you. There's no need. Yu-in, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have treated you that way, but in these past 6 years, not a single day went by that I didn't miss you. Yu-in's voice is frigid. Then why didn't you reply to a single one of my letters? Why didn't you visit me in prison even once? Why did you commit perjury in court just to send me away? Gu Shizhou is left speechless. Gu Shizhou, did you know? During my first year in prison, I dreamed every night that you were coming to save me. I dreamed you had uncovered the truth, and were waiting for me at the prison gates, telling me, in, I'm here. In the second year, I dreamed you finally came to see me. Through the glass, you told me to wait just a little longer. I'll get you out soon. Year 3, I dreamed that you finally replied to my letters. In the letter, you said, Inin, I'm sorry, I'm late. Year 4, I stopped dreaming altogether. Do you know why? Gu Shizhou's hand trembled as he held the phone. Because I knew you weren't coming. You wouldn't save me. You wouldn't see me. You wouldn't reply to my letters. 87 letters. You didn't open a single one. While my legs were being broken inside, you were outside celebrating Song Shishi's birthday. While I was being beaten until I went blind, you were buying her an 880,000 yuan necklace. And now you're telling me that not a day went by without you missing me. Yu-in hung up the phone. Fu Chun turned a laptop toward Yu-in. A surveillance video was playing on the screen. In the dark footage, Song Shishi's car is driving on the road. She's driving very fast. As she passes an intersection, she suddenly swerves the wheel, crashing into a car in the opposite lane. This is the surveillance footage of the intersection during the accident. I had it restored, Fu Chun said. The footage is grainy, but you can see she swerved into the lane on purpose. It wasn't a loss of control. He switched to another clip. In the video, Song Shishi's car didn't stop after the impact. Instead, she kept driving, dragging your parents' car along. She dragged it for nearly 200 meters. If she had truly lost control due to drunk driving, she would have hit the brakes after the collision. But she didn't. She kept flooring the accelerator. Yu-in's fingers tightened around the sofa's armrest. And there's this. Fu Chun switched to a recording of Ma San's confession. Since we're destroying Yu-in, make sure she can never stand up again for the rest of her life. 500,000. half up front, no problem. As long as her life is a living hell. This is the call recording from Ma-san's phone. He deleted it, but I had someone recover it. And there's this. Fu-chan switched to another file. This is the list of witnesses Gu Shisho bribed back then. 4 people in total. Each received between 100,000 and 500,000 as hush money. I have already tracked down 3 of them. They are all willing to recant their testimonies. Yu-in stared at the evidence on the screen, remaining silent for a long time. In the fire that day, Song Shishi told me that she hadn't been drinking at all. She did it on purpose. She said my parents were tough to kill, that even after being dragged for 200 meters, they didn't. She also said that my parents wanted her to give me a message. Do you know what my parents said? Fu-chan looked at her, without interrupting. They said, for me not to hate them. They said that sending me to the orphanage was the most painful decision they ever made in their lives. At the very last moment of their lives, they were still thinking of me. Yu-in closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and then opened them again. Her gaze was as sharp as a knife. Call the police. Fu-chan looked at her. Are you sure? Once we report this, there is no turning back. I never intended to look back. Gu Shisho gripped his phone, sitting blankly by the edge of the bed. The lights in the room were off. Only the light from the street lamps outside filtered in, casting a ghastly, pale glow on the wall. He had been sitting there for a long time. The phone screen lit up and dimmed, over and over again. The phone suddenly started vibrating. He looked down and saw it was Song Shishi. He stared at the name flashing on the screen but didn't answer. It rang a dozen times, then stopped. A few seconds later, it rang again. Still her. He ignored it once more. When it rang for the 3rd time, he finally picked up. Shisho. Song Jishi's voice was shrill and panicked. They know everything. What should I do? You have to help me. Gu Shisho remained silent. Shisho, are you listening? They're investigating what happened back then. You have to find a way. Aren't you a lawyer? Help me. Gu Shisho finally spoke, his voice as cold as a stone in an ice cellar. How am I supposed to help you now? My law firm is gone. My house has been seized by the bank. I'm tens of millions in debt. I can't even save myself. And you're asking me to help you? But this involves both of us. You can't just abandon me. Song Jishi's voice grew more frantic and shrill. If it wasn't for your idea back then, I never would have. My idea? Gu Shisho interrupted her, his voice suddenly rising. Song Jishi, you were the one who ran them over. You were the one who set the fire. I committed perjury for you for 6 years. I've protected you all this time. Designer bags, luxury cars, apartments. I gave you everything you wanted. What more do you want from me? Silence hung on the other end for a few seconds. But you can't just wash your hands of this now. If the police find out the truth, we're both going to prison. If you won't help me, you'll what? Gu Shisho sneers. Threatening me? Song Shishi, get this straight. Of all the things you've done, which one did I force you to do? You're the one who ran them over. You're the one who set the fire. And you're the one who hired Ma-san for those hits in prison. At most, I committed perjury. I'll be out in a few years. But you committed intentional homicide. That's a capital offense. Song Jishi's voice changes instantly. Sobbing, Gu Shisho, how can you say that? We've been together for 6 years. 6 years. Gu Shisho's voice turns even colder. How much money did you spend in those 6 years? Don't you have any idea? Song Shishi, let me tell you something. Gu Shisho says every word with emphasis. From this day forward, stop calling me. Your problems have nothing to do with me, and my business is none of your concern. Gu Shisho. Song Shishi's voice is shrill and trembling, but Gu Shisho has already hung up. He tosses the phone onto the bed. He leans his head back against the wall. The street lights outside flicker and go out. The room falls into total darkness. On the other end, Song Shishi stares at the disconnected phone, her face turning pale with rage. She slams the phone onto the bed and begins packing her things in a panic. She dumps all the designer bags out of the closet, choosing the 2 largest to stuff with clothes and jewelry. She grabs a handful of jewelry from the vanity and stuffs it into her pockets. Just as she opens the door, 4 uniformed officers stood at the door. Song Shishi. Song Shishi's grip loosened. The bag fell to the ground. Clothes and jewelry inside scattered all over the floor. Who are you? We're from the Criminal Investigation Detachment of the Haicheng Public Security Bureau. You are suspected of intentional homicide, hit and run, bribery, intentional assault, and several other crimes. This is an arrest warrant. Song Shishi's face turned as white as a sheet. Her legs went weak. No, it's not me. You've made a mistake. It was Gu Shisho. Gu Shisho made me do it. He's the mastermind. He's a lawyer. He knew how to manipulate everything. He's the one who taught me. Save those words for the court. Take her away. 2 policewomen stepped forward and handcuffed her. As Song Shishi was being escorted out of the apartment, she saw a black sedan parked downstairs. The window was half open. Yu-in was sitting inside. Yu-in, please let me go. I'm begging you. Song Shishi struggled and screamed, tears streaming down her face. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have stolen Gu Shisho. I shouldn't have hit your parents. Please let me go. I'll kneel for you. She actually fell to her knees, held up by two policewomen. Her knees dangled in mid-air. Yu-in looked at her. Song Shishi, you told me back at the fire scene that you hadn't been drinking at all. You said you did it on purpose. You said my parents were tough to kill, that even after being dragged for 200 meters. Song Shishi opened her mouth, but couldn't find the words. You also said my parents asked you to give me a message before you killed them. Then you stood before me, smiling as you relayed their last words. Song Shishi, you're a monster. Song Shishi's tears began to fall. Take her away, Yu-in said. The car window slowly rolled up. Song Shishi was shoved into the police car. Gu Shisho sat on one side of the glass partition in the detention center. He was wearing an orange inmate jumpsuit. He was much thinner than he had been a week ago. His cheekbones protruded, his eyes were sunken, and his beard was unshaven. Yu-in sat on the other side, watching him through the glass. Yu-in, he picked up the phone. His voice was so hoarse it was barely audible. Drop the charges. I'll do anything you want. Please, drop the charges. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have committed perjury for Song Shishi. I shouldn't have sent you to prison. But I was deceived by Song Shishi. She told me the car crash was an accident. She said she hit them by mistake after drinking. Gu Shisho. Yu-in interrupted him. You're a lawyer. You're the top criminal defense lawyer in Haiche. Now tell me, how a woman who didn't even finish high school could possibly fool you? Gu Shisho was speechless. You weren't deceived by her. You just chose to believe what you wanted to believe. Song Shishi said she was afraid of me, so you sent me to prison. Song Shishi said she didn't want you to see me, so you stayed away for 6 years. Song Shishi liked my house, so you gave it to her. Every choice you made was your own decision. No one forced you. Yu-in's voice grew even colder. Song Shishi wasn't drunk driving at all. She did it on purpose. She was trying to hit me. It's just that my parents took the hit for me. Did you know? Did you know about any of this? Gu Shisho's face turned as pale as a sheet. I didn't know. She told me it was just drunk driving. You didn't know? Yu-in let out a laugh. It was a cold, bitter smile. You were her lawyer. You committed perjury for her. You didn't even bother to find out if she was really drunk driving. Yet you dared to lie in court. Gu Shisho, you weren't deceived. You just didn't want to know the truth. Because if you had known, you wouldn't have been able to keep lying to yourself. Tears streamed down Gu Shisho's face. Yu-in, I was so wrong. Please, just give me one more chance for us to start over. Start over? Yu-in stood up. Gu Shisho, what are you saying? You want me to start over with the man who sent me to prison? You want me to be with the one who let others gouge my eyes out? I'll make it up to you. I'm willing to do anything. My house, my money, everything I own. I'll give it all to you. Everything of yours. Yu-in's voice was trembling. Everything you have was stolen from me in the first place. My parents' lives. How will you pay for those? My eyes. How will you pay for them? My legs. How will you pay for them? The 6 years I spent in prison. How can you ever repay me for that? Gu Shisho was speechless. Do you know what my parents' last words were? Yu-in's voice began to shake, but she forced herself to continue. They asked Song Shishi to give me a message, telling me not to hate them. They said, for sending me to an orphanage. It was the most painful decision they ever had to make. In the final moments of their lives, all they thought about was me. But what about you? When you committed perjury in court, did you ever think of me? When you had people beat me in prison, and when they blinded me and broke my legs, did you ever think of me? When you stood in the villa and watched those people beat me half to death, did you ever think of me? You just stood there and said, go ahead and kill her. I'll defend you in court. Gu Shisho, you have no right to talk about starting over. Yu-in hung up the phone and turned toward the door. Yu-in, Gu Shisho lunged at the glass partition, slamming his fists against it. I beg you, I'm kneeling before you. He actually fell to his knees. Through the glass, he knelt on the cold floor. Yu-in didn't look back. She walked out of the visitation room, and the door shut behind her. Gu Shisho's cries were muffled by the heavy door. The courtroom was packed to capacity. The gallery was filled with reporters and onlookers. Song Shishi sat in the defendant's dock, wearing a prison uniform. Her hair was a disheveled mess, and she was huddled in a ball, looking like a cornered animal. The prosecutor read the indictment. Then, witnesses took the stand one by one. Forensic analyst, based on the surveillance footage, the defendant's vehicle clearly changed lanes before impact. It wasn't a loss of control, but a deliberate swerve. After the collision, the defendant did not brake. Instead, she continued to accelerate, dragging the victim's vehicle for nearly 200 meters. Ma San's man, it was Song Shishi who ordered us to attack Yu-in while she was in prison, targeting her eyes, her legs, and her face. It was all specified by her. She said she wanted to make her life a living hell. Ma San, Song Shishi personally told me that the car accident was intentional. She said she intended to hit Yu-in, but she ended up hitting her parents instead. She even said it was lucky she hit them. Otherwise, it wouldn't be as fun if Yu-in died then. Prison guard, resigned Song Shishi, gave me 200,000 yuan through Ma San to give Yu-in special treatment in prison. I took the money and looked the other way for them. Every piece of testimony was like a blade, slashing into Song Shishi one by one. Her face turned paler and paler, her body trembling like a leaf. Her lips quivered, unable to utter a single word. Finally, the prosecutor played the recording. "Ma-san, that you in the prison. Tell your man to be more ruthless. Blind her eye, and break her leg." Song Shishi's voice echoed through the speakers, loud and clear, word for word. There was dead silence in the courtroom. Song Shishi collapsed in the dock, shaking all over. The judge struck the gavel. "Defendant Song Shishi, do you have anything to say?" Song Shishi stood up suddenly, pointing at Yu in the gallery. "It's her. She's the one who ruined me. She stole Gu Shisho away. If it weren't for her, Shisho would never have met me. She is the real culprit." "Enough," the judge interrupted her. "The court hereby pronounces, the defendant, Song Shishi, is found guilty of intentional homicide, sentenced to death, execution with immediate effect, found guilty of hit and run, sentenced to 7 years of imprisonment, found guilty of bribery, sentenced to 5 years of imprisonment, found guilty of intentional injury, sentenced to 10 years of imprisonment, combined punishment for multiple crimes. The court hereby orders the sentence, execution with immediate effect." Song Shishi's legs gave way, and she collapsed to her knees. No, I don't want this. "Shisho." The bailiffs dragged her out of the courtroom. As she passed by Yu In, Song Shishi suddenly struggled and lunged forward. "Yu In, are you satisfied now? You've destroyed me." Yu In sat in the gallery, looking at her calmly. "Song Shishi, do you know what my parents' last words were?" Song Shishi was stunned. "They once told you to bring me a message, telling me not to hate anyone. In the final moments of their lives, they weren't thinking about their own deaths, but fearing that I might live in hatred. But you killed them. You did it intentionally. You told me so yourself. I don't hate you, because you aren't worth it, but you owe them, and the law will collect that debt for them." Song Shishi's tears streamed down her face, as she was dragged away by the bailiffs. Gu Shisho stood in the dock, wearing a prison uniform, with his hair shorn short. The gallery was packed with reporters. After the prosecutor read the indictment, Gu Shisho's lawyer presented a defense, but the evidence was irrefutable: bank transfers to bribe witnesses, trial transcripts of perjury, and Ma-san's testimony. Every piece of evidence pointed directly at him. The judge banged the gavel. "The defendant, Gu Shisho, is found guilty of perjury. He is sentenced to 1 year of imprisonment. Guilty of obstructing justice. He is sentenced to 2 years of imprisonment. Guilty of bribery. He is sentenced to 2 years of imprisonment, with combined penalties for multiple offenses. The final sentence is set at 6 years imprisonment. His law license is hereby revoked, and he is permanently barred from legal practice." Gu Shisho closed his eyes. The bailiff approached, and handcuffed him. As he passed by Yu In, he paused. "Yu In," his voice was barely a whisper, "there's something I want you to know." Yu In looked at him. "I actually read all those letters you wrote." Yu In was stunned. 87 letters. "I read every single one of them. I read them over and over." "Then why didn't you ever reply?" Gu Shisho fell silent for a long time. "Because I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know what to say. After everything I did to you, anything I said would have seemed hypocritical. In your first letter, you said you wanted to come home. In the second, you said you missed me. In the third, you said you didn't blame me. But from the fourth letter on, you stopped saying those things. You started talking about life in prison, about the weather, and how you were studying law. When I read those letters, sometimes I would cry, but I still didn't have the courage to reply. It wasn't that I didn't want to. I was just too afraid." Yu In looked at him, silent for a long time. "Gu Shisho, do you know what I was thinking after I finished those letters?" "What?" "I was thinking, if you had replied to even just one of my letters back then, and just said to me, In, I'm working on a way, maybe I wouldn't have hated you this much. But you did absolutely nothing. All you did was write I'm sorry in your letters, while continuing to stay with Song Shishi, continuing to spend money on her, and letting her live in the house you bought. An apology isn't meant to be written in a letter. An apology is shown through actions. But you did nothing." Gu Shisho's tears began to fall. 6 years, Yu In said. "I spent 6 years in there. Now, you should stay in there for 6 years, too. Once you're out, we'll be even." She turned and walked away. The bailiff led Gu Shisho away. A month later, Yu In came to the prison to visit Gu Shisho. He was wearing a prison uniform, looking much thinner than a month ago. His hair had grown long, his beard was unshaven, and he had heavy dark circles under his eyes. "What are you doing here?" Sitting behind the glass, his voice was hoarse. "To see you," Yu In said, "for the last time." "Yes, I won't be coming back again." Gu Shisho fell silent. "Yu In," he said suddenly, "do you remember the first time we met?" Yu In remained silent. "It was during a trial. You were a relative of the plaintiff, and I was the defense attorney. You were standing in the courtroom, wearing a white dress. Your eyes sparkled when you spoke. I thought to myself then, this girl, I must marry her, and I did. I married you, but I failed to cherish you." Yu In looked at him. "Gu Shisho, let me ask you one question." "Go ahead." "When Song Shishi first appeared, did it ever cross your mind, even for a second, that she was wrong?" "My wife isn't that kind of person." Gu Shisho remained silent for a long time. "I did. When? The very first time. His voice was barely a whisper. The first time Song Shishi told me you were bullying her. I didn't believe it. I knew you weren't like that. But she said it over and over again. She said it for 2 months. Every single day. I started to doubt you. So, you weren't actually deceived. Yu In said. You just got tired of hearing it. Gu Shisho lowered his head. You chose to believe her, not because she was right, but because believing her was easier than believing me. By siding with her, you didn't have to deal with the trouble. You sent me to prison, not because you thought I really hit someone, but because it meant Song Shishi would be safe. Then you wouldn't have to choose between her and me. Gu Shisho, you've never truly faced anything in your life. You were just running away, over and over again. Gu Shisho's tears began to fall. Yu In, your apology. I accept it. Yu In stood up. But forgiveness? I can't give you that. Not in this lifetime. She turned and walked away. Behind her, through the glass, Gu Shisho watched her leave. His face was drenched in tears. Yu In went alone to the rental house where Gu Shisho once lived. The landlord was clearing out the room, tossing a pile of junk into a trash bag. Are you here to find something? Did he leave anything behind? The landlord thought for a moment, then pulled a cardboard box out of the cabinet. This is all of it. Yu In opens the box. Inside is a crumpled suit, several law books, and a stack of 87 unopened letters. Every envelope is tightly sealed with tape. On top of the letters lies that silver bracelet. Yu In is stunned. She picks up the bracelet. It has been repaired, but the marks from being crushed by the car are still visible. Her initials are still faintly recognizable on the inner engraving. A note is placed next to the bracelet, written in Gu Shisho's handwriting. I found it. It was crushed by the car. I had someone repair it. I don't know if you'll ever see this. Yu In clutches the bracelet, remaining silent for a long time. She puts the bracelet in her pocket. These things, throw them all away, she says to the landlord. Then she turns to leave. As she reaches the door, she pauses. Landlord, those letters, please burn them. Which ones? All of them. 3 months later, Yu In stands on the balcony of a suburban villa, gazing at the distant city lights. She still walks with a slight limp, but it's hardly noticeable unless one looks closely. The scar on her face had its final reconstructive surgery. It has faded significantly. The vision in her right eye is fully restored. She is wearing a white dress. The wind ruffles her long hair. Fuchen walks up from behind, and drapes a coat over her shoulders. What are you looking at? The lights. Yu In says. I never realized before that Haiching's night view was this beautiful. That's because you've never stood here to see it before. Yu In smiles. Fuchen hands her a glass of milk. He held me in his arms, saying with concern, you haven't been sleeping well lately. Drink some milk before bed. It will help you sleep better. I grabbed his wrist, staring deeply into his eyes, and asked, Fuchen, why are you so good to me? He was visibly taken aback for a moment. Then he ruffled my hair, and said, because, of course, back when we were at the orphanage, I fell in love with you at first sight. What? I asked in confusion. He continued, I was also an orphan. I was very withdrawn as a child, and no one wanted to play with me. It was you who stood up for me when I was being bullied, and saved me. Since then, I swore that I would marry you one day, no matter what it took, by any means necessary. But by the time my business succeeded, I found out you had already married Gu Shisho. Maybe my timing was just bad, but luckily, now, everything is finally right. My eyes welled up with tears as I listened, looking up at him in disbelief. These things, you never told me before. That was because I didn't want to disrupt your life. Maybe it's just my personality, but when I love someone, I feel more fear and hesitation. It's my fault. He pulled me into his arms tenderly. If only I hadn't arrived so late, you wouldn't have had to suffer so much. It's all my fault. I sniffled, and buried my face in his chest. At this moment, the years of grievance and pain I endured, finally found an outlet. I don't know how long I cried. I only remember that Fuchen kept wiping my tears, again and again.